All right, welcome into Sports Bit. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Tuesday, June 14th. Big game breakdown, 2 baseball games, comes in the Nationals again. And team previews, Jacksonville. A lot of people high on the Jaguars. We'll get to them. And the play of the day. We start off. Hey, by the way, thanks a lot to everyone out there. 5,500 views on Friday, our first 5,000 view day. So appreciate that. We are very excited for football season. And we hope to keep it going there. And thanks for all the views and the big uptick for what happened this weekend. But we start with the NBA Finals. And how about the total, Teddy? As low as 204.5 late last night into the morning. And as high as 209.5. And it lands on 209. A big missed free throw out of Varejao. They waved off a basket by Mo Williams. They called a charge. And there wasn't even a shot attempt in the final minute.
Yeah, it lands on 209, a true side. We talk about the difference between being middled and being sided. If the game lands on the point spread or the total, and it moved there, and the books lost all the bets. They lost all the over 204.5s and over 205s and 206s and 207s and 208s. That's called getting sided. It's every bit as bad as getting middled for the book, but there is a little nuance there. But yeah, I mean, it was 61-61.5. The game was going nuts. The highest scoring first half since, 1987? The Lakers and the Celtics?
Yes.
And it's worth noting, they scored 122 at halftime despite the two teams having more turnovers than assists. But as you mentioned, it was sitting at 208 with just over about 3.5 minutes left, 3:22 left. 112-96. 1 point the rest of the way. No shots taken in the final minute. Turnover. Well, I guess the one shot was waved off.
Waved off. They called the charge. Yeah. Big missed free throw out of Varejao, though. Yep.
Yeah, turnover, dribble out on the final 3 possessions. Ouch.
Yep, so at the end of Game 4, Green decided to get cute and stick his tongue out, and it made a huge difference last night, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, really, when you talk about the impact of the absence of Draymond Green last night. I mean, look, the Warriors' defense broke down all night. They allowed 57.6% on 2-point shots. And more than just that, they had the fast break points.
Yes.
Cleveland 28, Golden State 9. The points in the paint, Cleveland 46, Golden State 30. Cleveland wasn't getting 46 points in the paint when Draymond Green was there. And the fact that Irving and James both went off, combined 33 of 54, each of them scoring 41 points apiece. They didn't need anyone else to play well. With Draymond Green on the floor, he's guarding one of those guys. But that's one thing that Golden State couldn't do, was have both Irving and James go off in the same game. The fact they did it in Game 5 without Draymond Green, I think, speaks to Draymond Green's absence.
What was Kerr doing? He played 11 guys in the first quarter.
You're asking me? I can't answer that question. But I think I think he was trying to find some kind of a rhythm, trying to find some kind of rotation, getting guys who haven't been involved in the series involved, in theory, because you're missing obviously a key presence, one of your big three in Draymond Green. But 11 guys on the floor in the first quarter, to me, it was a little bit of a head scratcher. But I mean, the Warriors didn't fall apart in the first half. It was all second half. They still couldn't get stops, and in the second half, their shots really stopped falling.
Yeah, 61 points in the first half, 36 in the second half. Teddy mentioned the 5 of 21 in the in the fourth quarter. Some guys who cost themselves a lot of money in the future. Kevin Love, 2 points. Harrison Barnes, 2 of 14 shooting. My God, this is from ESPN Stats and Info. LeBron, his NBA record continues. That's 26 consecutive playoff series with at least one road win. And the Cavs' final 25 made field goals were either scored or assisted by LeBron or Kyrie. Staggering numbers there. All right, Game 6.
Well, hang on a second, because it's worth noting this. The last basket of the game that the Cavs made that wasn't scored or assisted by LeBron or Kyrie, Iman Shumpert's layup at 5:27 of the second quarter. Okay, it was LeBron or Kyrie on every single possession for Cleveland for the last 2.5 quarters, and the two of them played spectacularly. Let's give them credit.
Yes. Oh, awesome. I love that LeBron James. That get on my back. I'm taking over. I'm going to get mine first, and then I'll get my teammates involved.
Do you think the Warriors looked tired? I mean, they shot 5 of 21 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Curry, Thompson, and Iguodala all played more than 40 minutes of Game 5. And when you watch those possessions, Pauly, I mean, the Warriors took 42 three-point shots and 44 two-point shots. That's the wrong ratio.
Yeah, that can't happen.
That's not Golden State basketball. They don't stand on the three-point line and jack up threes. They did in Game 5, and obviously it cost them.
Game 6, early line, Cavs 2.5, 208. What do you think?
Well, I mean, again, if I want the Golden State side here, like we talked about for game number 4, I want the points. I don't want the money line. Now, I know that, we got some Twitter questions about, hey, why are you taking the points instead of taking the underdog on the money line in a game at +2 or +2.5? And this is why. First of all, in a playoff game where so many of the lines are tight, we talk about that all the time. It's not unusual at all for playoff games or any game to land on or near the number. And in a situation where, okay, I'm looking for a competitive game, I'm looking for this to come down to a final minute or a final possession, I'd always rather have the +2 or +2.5 in my pocket at -110 than taking a pick'em, which is on the money line, at +110 any day of the week. That's my opinion. Obviously, other bettors out there have different opinions, Pauly. You got yours, I've got mine. Early line, Cavs -2.5, 208.
A bad beat and a bad bet from the same game. White Sox and the Tigers, a bad bet if you were on Shields again, who got roughed up, but a horrible beat if you had the Tigers. They led 7-0 and 9-7 in the ninth, and they lost in extra innings.
Yeah, well, I had the Tigers last night. That was a lot of fun, let me tell you. And you know what drives me nuts, Paul? And again, it's like, how do you want to lose? All right, if you're going to lose this stupid game, at least lose it in the ninth. Don't make me sit around for 3 extra innings and watch you blow bases loaded opportunities and then lose it in the 12th. K-Rod, blow the save. Just blow the whole freaking game and don't let me sit around for another hour watching this crap. But let's start with the bad bet. I mean, this James Shields signing is looking epically bad right now. I mean, San Diego might have made a good bet in being willing to eat part of his contract in order to get rid of him. But Chicago is going to be paying him money this year and next. And you look at the numbers from Shields. The last 3 games he's pitched, they rival the worst 3-game starting stretch for any starting pitcher ever. 0-3 with a 21.41 ERA. He's given up 6 home runs. He's only lasted 9.2 innings of work. And how about this from ESPN Stats and Info? James Shields, the first pitcher to allow 7 or more runs in each of his first 2 games as a White Sox since Hugo Dutch Klarner in 1934. Yeah, I never heard of him before.
Forget about it. Yeah, come on, forget about it. Yeah, more bad bets. The Blue Jays shut out at home. They were as high as $2.
Well, hang on a second, because we haven't talked about the Tigers blowing that 7-run lead.
Sorry.
We talked about Shields. Meanwhile, here's Detroit. You meant -2,000 in game. Yeah, you have the blown save in the ninth. You have an offense that can't get the clutch hit. That was a brutal beat if you had the Tigers. No fun at all. And K-Rod, first blown save since his first save attempt of the season back on April 5th.
Okay, now to another bad bet. Blue Jays shut out at home. $2 favorites in some spots, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, the markets did bet Philly. The line closed Toronto -190. At some of the sharpest book, Penny was down to -170 at the first pitch. But the Blue Jays aren't playing. We keep saying the Blue Jays are going to come on. The Blue Jays are going to come on. Hasn't happened yet. Bad bet if you laid the big price with Toronto. But that wasn't the only one in MLB. There was a ton of bad bets last night in baseball.
A lot of them. Padres were pick'em last night. They got roughed up at home, and the books got pounded on the A's Rangers game. Steady money on Oakland all day. Pick them up to 150. Oakland wins big.
Yeah, and then, of course, there's the LA Angels, a team that we've talked about a fair bit on this show. They another game where the books lost. The books lost on the Oakland game. They lost on the total in the NBA Finals. They lost with in the Angels game where LA opens -140, closed near Pick'em. Weaver wasn't good, and I don't know if the Angels can be favored right now against anyone. This team's starting to tank. 1-8 in their last 9 games. If you bet LA, you had a bad bet.
Big game breakdown up next. We'll start with the Cubs and the Nationals on SportsBit. Betting and insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Always on the go? Bet365 has one of the top mobile platforms in today's market. Sign up today and don't let your busy life keep you out of the game.
Back on SportsBit, time for big game breakdown. As always, Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Cubs and the Nationals, $1.10, 8 the total. Lackey against Gonzalez, and big statement win for the Nationals last night. Helped out their confidence. They were swept at Wrigley earlier this season, and big-time revenge for Scherzer. He was lights out in the win. But at the age of 37, Lackey signing on for one last chance to get a World Series ring. But did anybody think, and especially the Cubs, did they think they were getting this type of guy, Teddy?
No, I think the Cubs thought they were getting like a steady veteran. He can eat some innings, keep the bullpen fresh. But look at what's happened with John Lackey at the age of 37. He's 7-2. The Cubs are 8-4 in his 12 starts. Yeah, okay. Here's the real story. His ERA of 2.62. That's a career best. Fielding independent pitching, FIP 2.92. That's a career best. His strikeout rate, 9.2 per 9 innings. That's a career best. His walk rate, 2.1 per 9 innings. That ties his career best from 2007. His swinging strike percentage at 12.8%. That's a career best. Not many guys are going to be doing that after reaching 2,500 regular season MLB innings, Pauly. He takes a tough competitor. Let's give Lackey some credit, but we also have to wonder how long this is going to last.
Gonzalez had been on his way to a John Lackey-type season. Solid and dependable, and the wheels came off, Teddy.
Oh, they really have. His last few starts have been ugly. Look, his first 8 starts, the guy was a monster. You know, only a 3-1 record, but a .86 ERA. His last 4, he's 0-4 with an ERA over 8. And it's not command. You know, he's got 31 strikeouts versus 6 walks in the 4 losses. But he's been hit hard. 5 home runs allowed during that span, and a lot of just hard-hit balls against him. You know, he was a little bit better at the White Sox in his last start, but he was also stretched out to 116 pitches in that outing. That's only the second time in the last 3 years he's topped 115 pitches in a game. Gio Gonzalez, not a guy I'm looking to back off an effort in which he threw a ton of pitches, may not be fully recovered for this matchup against a team that can really take advantage of weak opposing starting pitchers.
Well, plus you love the Cubs off a loss. That's been great all year.
I do.
Yes. Okay, game number 2. Orioles, Red Sox. It's Tillman against Price. Red Sox, $1.75, 8.5 the total, over $1.20. Price has had AL East home games in Tropicana and Rogers Center, but Fenway could be a problem in this matchup, Teddy, with the long ball.
Yeah, and really, I mean, that's the issue that we were wondering about with Price when he signed in Boston. Look, you know, Tropicana Field, not a problem for Price's pitching style. The Rogers Center, not a problem for Price's pitching style. But what are the issues with David Price? The guy gives up home runs. I mean, that's what happens. Over the course of his career, it's been solid. This year, it's been worse, I should say. His home runs per 9 innings, it's the second career worst. He had 1.19 in 2009. This year he's at 1.08. And, of course, the home run to fly ball percentage, the ratio of fly balls that are flying over the fence, 13.7%. That is a career worst for David Price. It's surely worth noting the Baltimore Orioles lead all of baseball with 99 home runs so far this season.
So Tillman's 8-1, but when's this going to start? He's good, but he's not 8-1 good, Teddy.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, when we talked about the most profitable pitchers in baseball to support on yesterday's show, Tillman, a top 5 pitcher in that regard. But, again, you look at the stats. You know, he's fielding independent pitching. The FIP, slightly above Major League average. The XFIP, slightly above Major League average. The Sierra, slightly better than Major League average. He's only been a tick better than an average MLB starting pitcher. And yet, he's put up these monster numbers. We know what that means, Paul. Correction is coming. Doesn't mean it comes today. Doesn't mean it comes in his next start. But we can be confident that Chris Tillman's stellar start is going to come back to earth a little bit. The guy is not an ace. That being said, boy, I mean, we talk about the under the radar stories. Not a starting pitcher. Out of the bullpen, Zach Britton.
How about
1.03 ERA, 19 saves in 19 chances. When the Orioles get a late lead, they hold it.
Remember, live on sportsbookreview.com. Up next, we continue our team previews, deep dive. Jacksonville Jaguars. And we'll get back to this game with the Orioles and the Red Sox as a play of the day on SportsBit. Betting and insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
All right, deep dive. Jacksonville Jaguars. Win total over under 7.5. 2015, 5-11 straight up, 7-8-1 ATS, and 10-6 to the over, Teddy.
Yeah, they certainly were an over team last year. An offense that was pretty good, a defense that was not. Of course, the mainstream stats will show that in some regard. The offense finished number 18. The defense number 24. They were a minus 10 in turnovers. That was 29th in the NFL. But those defensive issues have been consistent for the Jaguars. We'll talk about that in a minute. What I want to talk about is a team that went 4-6 in games decided by a touchdown or less. And you look at the wins: Miami, Buffalo, Baltimore, Tennessee, Indy late. All teams that were at 500 or below. The Jags did get 5 wins last year, which in comparison to some recent seasons is pretty good, but they didn't beat anybody good. They haven't beaten anybody good in years.
Mainstream stats: offense 18th, defense 24th, and they've ranked 20th or worse in DVOA each of the past 4 seasons. Defensive value over average.
Yeah, I mean, their defense hasn't been good. And remember, Gus Bradley came in as a defensive coach. Hasn't worked out that way so far. But boy, you look at some of the personnel moves that this team made on the defensive side of the football in the offseason, Pauly. And they've gotten a lot of talent upgrades on D.
Well, they spent a ton of money. Let's start with that. They signed Malik Jackson, spent over $178 million. They took Jalen Ramsey in the draft. They also grabbed Miles Jack. And this is big, too. Remember Dante Fowler, who was a top 5 pick last year, got hurt on the first day of practice. He's back, too. So basically, it was just a redshirt year for him.
Yeah, I mean, look, Malik Jackson, impact player at defensive end. Tayshaun Gibson, impact player in the cornerback position. Jalen Ramsey, potential impact rookie at the cornerback. Miles Jack was a guy who had the potential to be drafted number 1 overall before he got hurt at linebacker. Dante Fowler back. That's 5 guys with a whole lot of talent on the defensive side of the football. On offense, you bring in Chris Ivory at the running back position, which to me was a bit of a head scratcher, considering they already wasted a pick on Yeldon in last year's draft. But the move that I liked, they brought in Kelvin Beachum. This is a guy who they were able to sign on the cheap from Pittsburgh. He had a great season in 2014, then he tore his ACL last year. So maybe the Yuckle disaster might be finally coming to an end.
What do we think about Bortles? He put up good numbers, but can he lead this team to the playoffs?
I have to say that the jury's still out on Blake Bortles. He certainly showed promise in his second season. Big improvements from his rookie year. Last year he had 4,400 yards. He had 35 touchdowns. He had I'm not going to say only 18 interceptions. He did throw 18 picks, and he was sacked 51 times. But that 88.2 quarterback rating up from 69 as a rookie. The thing about Bortles, man, this team's got some weapons. They really do have solid skill position talent. Allen Hurns just signed the big deal. You have Allen Robinson. Yeldon I talked about, Chris Ivory, Marquis Lee, Denard Robinson, and Julius Thomas, the guy they paid all that money to last year. And of course, kind of a disappointing campaign for Thomas. 46 catches, 455 yards, only 5 touchdowns. He only played about half of the team's snaps, but you read some of his quotes, it was probably as hard of a transition as you can have. With all considered, I think it was a pretty good season just trying to battle with some of the things I fought through. It's hard to quantify how difficult it is getting to a new team with a new offense and missing the majority of training camp, then trying to get them into rhythm and develop a relationship and chemistry with the quarterback. It's worth noting Greg Olson, now in his second year as the offensive coordinator. There's been a lot of talk about Julius Thomas and Blake Bortles working together in the offseason. Olson's quote, "Julius looks good. Guys that have been here have been relatively healthy, and Julius has been one of those guys who's been able to get a lot of reps and a lot of work in so far."
I didn't like him when he was the OC with the Raiders. No creativity or imagination. So there's some red flags out there. Last year, one of the easier schedules in the NFL.
Yeah, and the schedule looked pretty easy on paper. It was fairly easy as you graded it out based on power ratings on the week the week the game was played. But looking at the 2016 schedule, based on this year's season win total, it is much harder than last year. In fact, only 2 teams have bigger year-over-year jumps in strength of schedule than the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going to face off, like all the teams from the AFC South. They're going to face the NFC North and the AFC West, as well as their own division. Their 2 extra games come against the Ravens and the Bills, 2 teams that are expected to be around or better than 500 this year.
How about the 4 road games in 5 weeks? That seems like there's a lot of. I think the Packers. There's another team too that has 4 home games in 5 weeks as well. Isn't that odd with how the schedule broke for some of these teams?
No, it's fairly normal. I mean, you find it, but when you see these type of scheduling spots, you red flag them. How many good spots do they have? How many bad spots do they have? I mean, you talk about 4 roadies in 5 weeks, going from basically the end of October all the way through December with only 1 home game. You say, well, that's not necessarily a good sign. But it's worth noting, the Jaguars, again, you don't see the Jaguars on Sunday night games. You don't see the Jaguars on Monday night games. So if they are good, they're not going to get overhyped in September. I remember a pretty good team last year that we weren't seeing in the national TV games, and they held their value right into December. That team, the Carolina Panthers. So I'm not calling Jacksonville, Carolina, not even close. What I'm saying is that if this team is any good, there's going to be value to support them, even though the wise guys fairly high on Jacksonville this offseason.
What do you think? Early lead, 7.5.
Well, I mean, they have a lot of winnable games. Look at this schedule. If they're any good, it's a kind of schedule that you can't be shocked if they open the season 5-3 or 6-2. That being said, you can't be shocked if they open the season 3-5 or 2-6. They're just that kind of a team. The Jags, you can sense it already. They're going to be in a lot of coin flip games in the fourth quarter this year. First lean, if I have to do it, I'll take the Jags over. I think this team is getting better, but that red flag on the schedule and the strength of schedule compared to last year stands out like a sore thumb for me. I don't think as a result that I'll be able to get to the betting window with a wager on the Jags over 7.5 wins, but I certainly do. I have our first lean. I lean in that direction.
All right, excellent. We finish out the division with the Titans on Thursday. Tomorrow, deep dive, U.S. Open preview with Brian Blessing. All right, money time, play of the day. Where are we going, Teddy?
Let's get up there and go over the total in Fenway Park. Game number 913, 914, Boston and Baltimore. Let's call it over 8.5. You have to lay a little juice. Minus 120 to do it. We will expect a slugfest at Fenway. Take the Red Sox and Orioles over the total. That's our play of the day.
Excellent. And again, thanks, guys, for the spike in views. Football, less than 2 months away. Can't wait for the preseason. It's right around the corner on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.